What's going on, everybody? Welcome to game week 7 of GOALAZO here on FSI. I'm Alex Hooper, going to try and bring you some GPP strategies for the Classic slate on Saturday, October 2nd here in the Premier League. Before we get started, of course, if you haven't already, slap a like on the video. Follow FSI for all of our great soccer content and other sports. Keats over in NFL won $239,000 this week. So, I mean, the NFL pricing for the Discord, I think, just went on sale before that. So it's best time to get that deal. Winners win, stay hot, and all of that. Also, finally, follow me on Twitter at Lex Hooper. The at is the A in Alex Hooper. It's the easiest way to remember it. Come find me, come talk. Let's talk shop, Premier League, other soccer, or whatever, especially if you're from Cleveland. A lot of Cleveland sports-based content coming out of there. So let's just get into it after all the plugs and whatever that last part was. So this slate, it's a 4-game slate, and it's all going to come down to what do you do with Chelsea? They are, let's look at the odds first. They're the biggest favorite on the slate, but they're also the only big name on this slate. Not even that big a favorite, 249 to Southampton plus 822. Obviously they're a huge dog, but not a huge favorite, not a City minus 1,000 sort of thing. Chelsea's been sputtering a little bit lately. I just say that because of the loss to City. I don't remember what they did in the midweek in Champions League. I want to say they won, but I don't think it was pretty. Anyway, 2 3/4 total. Favored on the under there. 2-0 Chelsea win, something like that. Obviously, I hope people are going to go bananas on Chelsea here, and then they only put up 1 or 2 goals. And if they're both Lukaku, then you want Lukaku and Marcus Alonso, and then find the goals from the other games and the upside from the other games. That's what we're hoping. But we'll get into that here in a second. Second biggest favorite, Wolves at home against Newcastle. 2.5 total. That ties the Burnley-Norwich game for the lowest on the slate. Obviously, I mean, just kind of all centralized around the same spot. Yeah, that's an interesting one. We'll talk about that as well. Leeds Watford. Leeds is the third biggest favorite at minus 129. Watford plus 380. This one, juice on the over 2 3/4. Obviously, we know Leeds generally pretty open. I think Watford gets one here, but it could be a wild one. And Leeds hasn't been great lately. Watford obviously hasn't been either, but this one could get wild. I'm interested in this game. Then finally, Burnley and Norwich. Burnley favorite at home, Turf Moor, minus 111, plus 342 for Norwich, and a 2.5 total. I mean, realistically, when you look at the over, this Chelsea-Southampton game has the lowest total technically. So, sorry, I take that back. It doesn't. But, I mean, you're looking under 2 3/4. I mean, that's 2, and that's got the highest. I'm not great with odds, but I mean, if you look at it, it very easily just be the lowest total on this slate. So let's just take a look. I mean, again, it comes down to what are you doing with Chelsea? Do you think they run away 4-0? I mean, it's possible. And if that's the case, then you want all out Chelsea. If it's not, like, they're probably going to be more expensive and you probably don't need them. So here's how most people are going to start out. I mean, Rafinha in an open game, he's got sets, he crosses a lot, he's got goal upside, scored last week. He is the most expensive player on the slate, even over Lukaku, but I think still you start there. In GPP, which is what this video is about, perfectly okay to fade him. I'm not going to do that a ton. I'm definitely going to do it a little bit, a sum. I almost said I'm turning into Mario. And then Marcus Alonso, if he starts, 7,100, most expensive defender, but it could be very, very active here. So let's just dive right into it. I got everyone popping up here, so I'm not going to go position by position. I'm just going to kind of roll through everybody and let you know how I feel about them. All right, so Lukaku, This is 2-goal territory. Like I said, if he scores 2 for Chelsea, which is very, very possible, you're going to want him, obviously. But if it's only 1, there might be enough goals on this slate to where you don't need him. And at this salary, plus Rafinha, I mean, you're looking at 43.40, and it's going to be tough to find floor to prop these guys up, which, I mean, you're going to get plenty out of Rafinha and Alonso, but it's going to be a tougher build with Lukaku in there. So if you're playing 20 GPP lineups, like if you're maxing the quarter or the $1, I mean, get like 8 with Lukaku. I think that's reasonable. Definitely. I mean, see how the lineup shake up. Just using 8 as kind of a base point. Like, I think you can still make okay lineups. Like, say I want to throw James Ward-Prowse in here, run back. Yeah, see, there we're swimming upstream. All of a sudden, you got to like punt down to McCarthy. Sorry for that. And you're basically playing a minimum midfielder, a really crappy defender, and someone not too great at utility. So, like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, you're really going to have to squeeze it. I don't, even just looking at this now, like, sorry, I'm going to jump all over the place just because I want to see what this build looks like. But if Rashica plays all of a sudden, you know, like you have a little more wiggle room. Like, I think he's a great play there. And not a ton else in midfield. If Ruben Loftus-Cheek starts instead of Azpilicueta, I think he's a lock and load. But I don't expect that. So yeah, that's kind of what you get with Lukaku. Back to everybody. All right, so Adama Traore, Wolves have been more or less impotent to start the season, and I don't hate Traore as a cash play, but at 9.9, like, find the 600 and just hope you get a goal from Lukaku. Like, I don't think Traore is such a great bet against this Newcastle team who does concede points. I mean, but like, he's got to score. I don't think that 600 saves you a ton. So like, I don't think the difference here is that negligible. Obviously, or I do think the difference is negligible. Obviously, if Lukaku doesn't score, then Traore is probably going to outperform him by, I mean, this looked like about 7 points, 8 points. So you have to take that into consideration. But I mean, it's Lukaku, the biggest favorite. He's a monster. Like, and I don't know what his goal scoring odds are, but I'm sure they're negative 200, negative 180, something like that, if I had to guess. Probably something I could have looked up, but I didn't. All right, so moving on. Ismail Assar, 9,300, you know, no sets, but I mean, the guy just produces. He's only got 2 crosses, or no, last game 2 crosses. He's got 24 crosses, 20 fouls drawn against Leeds. Yeah, I mean, like, I'm going to play him. I'm definitely going to play him. I think it'd be silly not to get at least a little exposure to him in cash. This isn't a cash show again, but I like him more than Traore probably. I don't love the Wolves spot. I think that's the thing, is like, they're, what did I say, the second biggest favorite, but like the total's lower for a reason. I think you'd just rather get to a guy like Sarr. Even Jack Harrison, not that I love that. 9,200, I'll roll right into him. Like, if he's crossing a bunch all of a sudden, then great, but he hasn't been that great for Leeds so far. I think he's got some set pieces, but 9 crosses against Brent. Like, this is a game he's worth that price. I mean, 4 shot attempts, 9 crosses. You can see that Burnley invites that, and you get that. Watford, I don't know that that's the case as much. If it was Newcastle here, then I would say, yeah, like, plug him in. But at that price, it's kind of weird. All right. Like I said, I don't like the Wolves spot. You need 2 goals probably out of Jimenez or Silva, whoever it is, which is possible. Like, 1 lineup, 2 lineups, play him up front, I guess. But like, when you think of the probability of 2 goals between Lukaku and Jimenez, like, it's obviously Lukaku by quite a bit. But again, it's possible. I don't want to sit here and say that Raul Jimenez can't get 2 goals against Newcastle, who are bad. I didn't look at the XG this time around, but I know, like, Newcastle's defense isn't great. It's just, it's not a spot I want to get to. It's on. If you get 1 goal out of it, like, I don't think. So you're like $300 a player more than you were with Big Rom. So Don't love it. Okay. James Ward-Prowse, 8,700, I think is a fine bring back if you're going like, if you want to do this, if you want to grab Aspi and you want to grab Mendy. I mean, that's 4,000s. All of a sudden you just go here and you punt. Who's going to start? I guess Walcott could. One of these guys, Ashley Barnes at 4th. See, like 4,000, like you can make something work here. This game script is basically like Chelsea goes up 1-0. Maybe one of these guys score. Maybe it's an own goal. Maybe it's like Jorginho or someone who's generally low. I mean, you could probably even get him here. I'll almost build a lineup, which I shouldn't do. But yeah, 46, and all of a sudden you're looking at what? 24, 34, 34 for your last piece. Like you can find something there. So then you just need floor. You need Southampton to cross a ton. You need Barnes to score, and then if it's Jorginho who does score, then all of a sudden you're rolling. So, oops, yeah. So let's get back to where we were. Also, you don't have to play Azpilicueta 5,100 on defense in that build. Like you could just play a different center, like a Silva or a Rudiger. Christensen's probably 2,900 or something still. Like you can play that and punt and just take the 4 points if they get a clean sheet. Wait. All right. Mason Mount probably not going to play. Chan is a little better at 8,400. I don't think he's supposed to start, but if he did, I assume he'd be wide. Oh, yeah, there's one. Oops. We'll get to that. Yeah, so if he starts like better than Jimenez, maybe not. Maybe at 84, you still need 2 goals. I don't know. I don't love those guys. There's one Wolves guy I just saw that might be one of my favorite plays on the slate, if not my favorite. So, oh, how the tide turns. It's talking about how I don't like Wolves, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh yeah, there's a guy I love. Dwight McNeil, 8,300, fine. I think he's better in cash, 8,300, like against Norwich. Bad defensive team, like you could get there. Pat Bamford played. He'd be great, but I think he's still like out. St. Maximin, 8,000, worth a GPP play if you have the money to get to him. If Timo Werner starts with Lukaku, I would play Werner all day because then you just need 1 goal. And even if Lukaku puts up 1 and an assist, like with the 2,600 savings, you could get better floor there. Ziyech is 7,800. He's been pretty rough. I love the guy at Ajax, but he's just not the same guy at Chelsea, and it makes me sad, even though like I don't like Chelsea. But as of now, he is your Werner. Like that's your Lukaku pivot. Like basically what you want out of Chelsea on this slate, ideally, is you just want the cheapest player to score a goal from Chelsea. I mean, that could be Ziyech at 7,800. It could be Lukaku, 2 goals in 2-0 game. Like then you will need him. But then when you think about the distribution of scoring for Chelsea, I mean, like who here hasn't scored? Christensen? Probably Ziyech. But like any of these guys could score. So what you want is the cheapest goal scorer. If you could grab a Kovacic and he scores again, and then just get Alonso and Aspi and Mendy, or just Alonso, like you don't need to overload Chelsea. Of course, this is going to be the slate where they go up and bomb 5-0, and all of a sudden you do need a ton of Chelsea. Like make 1-2 lineups like that. That's fine, but like don't go overboard with it. They're not that big a favorite, and generally, like even when you see City minus 1,000 against someone, that doesn't mean 5-0. Like it can just mean like they're gonna go up 1-0 and then they're just gonna hold possession because the other team's so bad, and then they'll score a second and a third, like, and then one of them's a sub, something like that. So don't think because Chelsea's the biggest favorite that means it's a running riot. I fall into that way too often, and you often don't need it. So Havertz is the same thing, 75, probably a better play than Ziyech, but Ziyech is going to be a little more leverage on ownership probably because he's more expensive and has been bad. Let's see. So Rodrigo at 7,200. I was loving playing him at 5,400. For Leeds up front, like you can play him here still. Probably gonna have even less ownership. I don't know that because of the slate, but I liked him a lot more when he was cheaper. I'll still get to him because of that ownership leverage and because he hasn't scored yet. Like might be the time, but I'm not going to go crazy. Trincao at 7,000. Opportunity cost probably is an issue here. Klitsch at 6,800. I mean, he's been doing so much for Leeds. One of these days he's just going to fall off, but I mean, like, this is going to be an open game. Leeds is going to have a lot of opportunities. He's taken a ton of shots. He's assisting shots. Like, I think I will have him in cash for sure, and probably will be a big part of some of my GPP builds, just because at 6,800, like, he fits, and you're going to need. So let's see, minus an assist, 14 points without a goal and an assist, and then 4 against United, but they got shellacked. So, like, not even a ton of crosses here. It's just shot 4. Look at all of these shots. 4 shots on goal against Newcastle. And it's going to be a similar game toward like this, I think. Like, Watford's going to have the ball in transition more, but it's not like Leeds aren't going to take shots. Sorry for highlighting everything. Yeah, I think that's a great spot. Manuel Dennis on the run back, 67. He's still a good play there. Chilwell, if he played, would be fantastic, especially with the savings over Alonso. Moutinho at 64. I think he's an okay cash play. I would be more likely to pair him in those lineups where I do have a Traore or a Jimenez, but you need an assist out of him because he's basically just floor. Chris Wood at 6,300 against Norwich, man. So, like, the Burnley guys against Norwich, Norwich's defense probably is the worst in the league. And at 6,300, I mean, that's such cheap forward. I mean, 51 per, like, you're golden. Pair him with McNeil or don't, but I think that's a great spot. I always think it's a great spot for Chris Wood, and I almost got it last week. They VAR'd him off at the last minute on a nice little header. That was disappointing. Reece James, could he be back? Oh yeah, he picked up that ankle injury. No, he's close, apparently, according to Southgate. I'm sure they'll love him not being able to play and then going and playing for England. Joe Willock, 6,200. That's quite a YOLO punt play. It's not even a punt, but it's Wolves. Like, he could score. Willock finds the back of the net. He's fine. Pukki at 6,100. Like, he's always in play until that salary goes up. Like, he's going to be the cheap goal scoring option on pretty much every state. And it's Burnley. Like, generally they sit back in a block, but, like, they've been giving up goals. So I wouldn't be afraid to play Norwich here. Really quick, let's look at this Norwich lineup. I think it's Sargent up front. Yeah, that's what they plan. I think these 3 guys right here, Sargent, Pukki, Norman. I didn't see what Sargent's price was. We'll get to it. I think these 3 are all very much in play. Lees Malou is like 3,300. So, do you see him? Yeah, so Sargent must have dropped unless I just overlooked him. 55, like, he's not as good as Pukki, but he's right there in terms of salary. All right, working our way down. Stuart Dallas, 6,100, playing more forward, centrally forward, but their Bielsa's formations changed so much. I think it's okay to get some. Richie, I mean, Wolves could invite a lot of crosses. Let's run an experiment. We're gonna watch this live on air. Who concedes the most? Crosses. Huh, of course it's Spurs, because the defense sucks. Newcastle, okay. So it's Newcastle and Watford on this slate. Okay, so Wolves 55 crosses on the year. Who takes the most crosses? Burnley. Leeds. Yeah, so, like, I don't, just looking at that, I mean, it's not the end all be all, but, like, I don't love Richie here for that reason, especially, like, if Wolves aren't giving up a ton of crosses, then, like, Newcastle might be a stay away. It might just be because it might just be who they played and because they're bad centrally or something like that. You know, like, just looking at that doesn't tell the whole story, but it's enough. Ruben Neves, fine. I don't know if he's going to start. Yeah, he's not supposed to. They got Den Donker, and if he does, like that's a fine price, but he's a guy. We got Mendy. Westwood at 5,800, always in play, cheap enough, decent enough floor. He can score. Solis, if he starts, is fine. So Adam Armstrong right here, and then not too far below, I want to say like 5,200 is Che Adams. Generally what you see is when there's a big favorite on the slate, or the biggest favorite on the slate, the opposite side, the ownership is suppressed. Chelsea obviously is not a team that gives up a lot of goals. So that's just more and more reason to play Southampton guys like Armstrong. Like, I mean, Elyounoussi is pretty expensive for what he is. I would be more likely to get to Armstrong or Che Adams just to run it back. Like, if you're not going to play Mendy, don't be afraid to play one of these Southampton guys, because if they score, they're going to be virtually unowned, and they're cheap, and you need cheap goals. So like, don't go crazy. It's Chelsea, but also like, if you believe that one of these guys is going to score against Chelsea, then go for it. Maybe the penalty taker, who, let's take a look. Let's go to it. The show might run a little long. Oh, so Ward-Prowse. So neither of the guys up front. It's only one, but I don't know who was on the pitch when he took it, whatever. But so yeah, Southampton guys are a perfect run back. I love playing the opposite side of the big favorite. I think that makes sense here. Although my cognitive bias says don't play it against Chelsea, which is probably even more reason to play it, because if I'm having trouble with it, then the only people we're going to be playing Southampton guys are people who truly know leverage, and those are generally the sharps, and they win all the money. So, okay. Semedo, that's a yuck. If Tyler Roberts starts up the middle again for Leeds as we refresh, you'd think I would have looked at this, and I did, but yeah, neither of those guys. It's Rodrigo, but if it's Roberts here, that's a big discount. It's not great, but you can still get it. Fraser 56, sure, fine. Talked about Sargent, that's fine. Marcel 55, I think they're just better options. Like, if you want to get up from Azpilicueta to Marcel, and you think Wolves are just going to cross against Newcastle, who do allow a lot of crosses, that's a fine play. I don't love Pope here. I mean, Norwich is not great, but like, I don't love it. Sorry, I'm looking at keepers already. That's generally the last thing you want to do. Okay, so here is my guy. 5,400 for Potence on the wing against Wolves. You know, like, he probably only gets 60 minutes. Sorry, against Newcastle for Wolves. But at 5,400, what I say, the second biggest favorite, that's kind of a no-brainer. I think that's your cheap gold du jour. 10 lineups. You know, like, I would be willing to play him at about a 50% clip. I try to keep things around 40, but yeah. Like I said, Rashica, if he plays, fantastic. Kovacic, 53 is a bit expensive. I would almost rather play Che Adams on the other side, but that's obviously a lineup dependent thing. Azpilicueta 51, I think I think he could be your third guy in here, and just play that back line and then play Mendy if you can, or whatever. But yeah, Armstrong, Joe Linton, 5,100, like, that's a nice, fun, cheap punt play. Charlie Taylor, 5,000, might even be better than Azpilicueta. You just might be more at risk of losing the 3-point clean sheet, but he could easily make up for that with 4 or 5 crosses. So, talked about Norman in the middle. That's a cheap option. Not going to go crazy, but would definitely get to him. Jacob Murphy, 49, still good. Joshua King at 48, I'm waiting for him to bust out. Like, he's going to continue to be cheap. Leads are open. Like, Watford can get a goal. So if you don't have room for Sarr, maybe go to King. Livramento, for once, I'm going to say I'm not going to play him. Same thing for Logan as Charlie Taylor. Like, might be a good, cheaper option. Ashley Barnes, 45, man. Like, that's as good as you can ask for goal scoring upside here against Norwich. I think that's a fine play, especially in GPP. If you want to get, if you play Barnes, and we talked about the James Ward-Prowse thing. Like you can get a little more expensive elsewhere by playing him, and that's kind of what you want in GPP. All right, I think this is a perfect slate for Calvin Phillips in cash. Not a great GPP play, but you can if you want. Again, like cheaper options than Aaron's, probably a defender. Goodmanson, if he starts for Burnley, I'm gonna go back. I don't think he's supposed to. Yeah, he is. Another cheap Burnley option, even cheaper than Barnes. Probably less likely to score, but not by much. I'm gonna dive. I'm just gonna look at goalkeepers before I get out of here instead of just going one by one like I did. Redmond is the cheapest potential stain on Chelsea. Again, 1-2 lineups maybe. Firpo at 42, no thanks. Loftus-Cheek, like I said, if he starts, opportunity cost is a little high at midfield if you want some upside plays, but I don't think it's so high that you wouldn't play Loftus-Cheek at 4,100. I don't mind Danny Rose. No thanks on Kyle Walker-Peters. Shackleton out wide for Leeds, probably not at 400 or 4,000 even. Nice cheap spot for Chelsea. If Tella starts, that's an even cheaper option. Billy Gilmore, some solid floor for Norwich against Burnley, gives up points. If Billy Gilmore starts, and he's definitely on sets, I think he's great in cash, and I would consider him in GPP, especially if I'm playing a guy like Poogie. I don't think Kiko's supposed to start, but that'd be fine. And Keo would be a no, but he's cheap, so whatever. Brownhill, another cheap guy who can get involved for Burnley if you really like Burnley. Kutsa, I believe it is, for Watford. That's fine. You know, down here, it's kind of like whatever. I don't think any of these guys are going to start from. Christensen, 3,400. Not as good a punt as I thought. Leeds Malou, 33. Like I said, like that's a decent big time punt. He can get involved offensively. Like he can be pretty creative in the attack. Isaac Hayden is more of a center back than midfielder. I wouldn't go there. Genepo, man, I'm waiting on you. And now we're kind of here in Death Valley. Burnley center backs are always in play, especially against Norwich. If you're playing Pope, probably play one of those guys. If you're playing Pope for the clean sheet, probably not the onslaught against as a favorite. So go ahead and play a guy who might score a goal. All right. Yeah. So really quick, getting into keepers. All right. So Mendy 59 or Sa 56. I would just find the 300 to get to Mendy. It's not that Newcastle can't score, but like it's Wolves. I don't think there's such a potent defense that you have to stay away from them. I would be fine with playing Meslier at 5,500. Again, Leeds is open, but Watford's not that good. Again, like if you can find the 400 to get to Mendy, I would do it. But yeah, I don't hate that as much as Sa, basically, is what it is. Pope, 5,400 against Norwich, only 500 cheaper than Mendy. Like, just, I don't know why you would get here unless you just absolutely need to stay, unless it gets you a big jump. Like, I don't think you need it. Norwich is also bad, so whatever. Then you go all the way down to Tim Krul at 42. That's when it starts to make sense. Norwich's defense is not good. Burnley's offense, it's Burnley. Like, I always like them for one goal as a GPP punt, but that doesn't mean I think they're always going to score. I think he's not my favorite of the cheap ones. Ben Foster against Leeds, like find the 200 in my opinion. I think Leeds is going to, I mean, if Foster does get a bunch of shots on goal, it's going to be a lot because it's Leeds, but I think I'd prefer Krul barely. Okay. But obviously McCarthy might face a lot of shots from Chelsea and they might be bad shots. They might just pepper him all game. Like he's very in play, but for 200 more, Darlow against Wolves, like it's Wolves. I've said it this whole time. It's Wolves. Newcastle, very bad defense, but it's Wolves. Like I think the clean sheet upside for a 3,900 keeper here is very good. I don't think there's much of an onslaught chance, but I think 3,900 what you're going to get here is, I mean, look at that, 56 per. We're rolling. Yeah, so that's kind of the slate. Just don't go crazy on Chelsea. Try and find the cheapest Chelsea goal scorer. cycle through. Like make a lineup with Kovacic, make a lineup with Jorginho, make a lineup where it's just I think the best thing to do with Chelsea, honestly, is play Alonso, play Aspi, play Mendy, and then find the rest. Or if you need to free up a little more salary, play Alonso, play Silva or Rudiger. I don't think Christensen's as big a threat to score, but he's the only one who probably hasn't. Play them, play Mendy. Just take the back line against Chelsea and then, or the back line of Chelsea, and then find, your Rafinhas, your Leeds up front, maybe get Podence, something like that. So that's the build I like. If you can find one more cheap Chelsea piece, and if it's 2-0, then all of a sudden you feel good about yourself. But so that's it. If you have any questions, comment here. Find me on Twitter, @LexHooper. We'll talk it out. We'll figure it out. That hour with lineups, though, I'm not going to be online. I'm going to make lineups, so come find me early. If you have any questions, let me know. But until then, good luck this weekend. Hope one of you ships it. And we'll talk to you Sunday for Tilt City. See ya.